Watch closely. This is more than a viral courtroom moment. Every reaction, pause, and statement reveals lessons about strategy, perception, valsiags, and influence in high-stakes legal and political battles. If you think a 9-second testimony can't change history, think again. Pay attention. Because what you see here is a masterclass in preparation, authority, and timing that could redefine how political and legal narratives unfold in the digital age. The courtroom was tense, electric, and alive with anticipation. Everyone knew that the legal battle between Donald Trump and Representative Jasmine Crockett was high profile. But no one could have predicted how swiftly the momentum would shift. Cameras flashed, microphones hovered, and the audience, both in person and online, waited for the first explosive exchange. Trump, confident and calculated, entered with the demeanor of a seasoned litigant accustomed to commanding attention. Across from him, Crockett maintained a composed, unwavering presence, her poise signaling the seriousness of what was about to unfold. The proceedings began formally. With procedural statements and opening remarks, Trump's legal team laid out their narrative, attempting to paint a picture that could discredit Crockett's actions and testimony. They spoke with force, cadence, and the weight of past victories. Carefully rehearsed lines designed to dominate the narrative and frame the story in their favor. Yet, there was an undercurrent of tension, the kind that precedes moments of unexpected revelation. Every word, every pause was being scrutinized by journalists, analysts, and millions of viewers streaming live. Then came the critical turning point, the witness called by Crockett's legal team. The tension in the room heightened as the witness took the stand, poised to provide testimony that would either reinforce Crockett's position or falter under cross-examination. As questions began, it became evident immediately that this witness had been meticulously prepared. Their responses were precise, clear, and devastatingly effective. In just seconds, the testimony began to unravel the carefully constructed arguments presented by Trump's team. The courtroom dynamic shifted palpably. Trump, who had started with unwavering confidence, now faced direct evidence that contradicted key elements of his case. Each line delivered by the witness struck like a strategic arrow, highlighting inconsistencies, omissions, and the lack of foundational support in the claims being advanced. The room felt the shift even before words were fully digested. The energy, the rhythm, the perception of authority had transferred entirely. Crockett's side now had momentum, and it was unmistakable. Observers online were quick to pick up on the moment. Clips circulated instantly, showing the witness delivering a concise, pointed statement that demolished the credibility of Trump's legal narrative. Analysts across social media platforms dissected every word, emphasizing how, in just 9 seconds, the trajectory of the case was altered. The precision, clarity, and undeniable factual basis of the testimony made it viral almost immediately. And viewers debated the implications of what they had just witnessed, inside the courtroom. The reaction was subtle but telling. Trump's team scrambled to regain footing, attempting to interject, clarify, and redirect attention. However, each attempt was met with measured responses and pointed follow-ups that reinforced the witness's authority. The moment was not only about what was said, but also about timing, delivery, and perception. The witness had been placed strategically, and the effect was instantaneous. Credibility shifted, and the narrative advantage now belonged to Crockett. Crockett herself remained composed, her focus unbroken, her eyes following each exchange with a calm intensity. She understood the power of restraint. By allowing the witness to deliver unimpeded, by refraining from interrupting or overemphasizing, she ensured the testimony's impact was maximized. Every subtle glance, nod, and composed gesture reinforced the authority of the evidence being presented. The courtroom had become a live demonstration of strategic preparation, meeting the precision of effective legal storytelling by the halfway mark of the testimony. Trump's confident demeanor had noticeably changed. Each attempt to redirect attention, to challenge the witness, only highlighted gaps in the argument. The contrast between Crockett's preparation and Trump's increasingly reactive posture became evident not only to the audience but also to the press. Analysts would later describe the sequence as a masterclass in turning momentum, preparation, clarity. An authoritative delivery can overcome even the most high-profile adversary in moments. Throughout the exchange, the witness methodically addressed every major claim made by Trump's team. Points about credibility, legal procedure, and context were delivered with precision, each line timed to expose weaknesses without theatrics. The courtroom observed a silent but undeniable shift. What had begun as a potentially even contest transformed into a decisive display of strategic dominance. Every word resonated, every pause carried weight, and the story of the case began to pivot irrevocably as the first part of the testimony concluded. The atmosphere was charged. Trump's legal team had lost control of the narrative, while Crockett's witness had established undeniable authority. The courtroom had witnessed a moment that would soon circulate widely, shaping public perception and online discussion alike. Within mere seconds, a legal battle that seemed heavily tilted had realigned, and the precision of preparation and clarity of evidence had proven decisive. The courtroom tension didn't dissipate after the initial witness testimony. In fact, it intensified. Trump's legal team had anticipated challenges, but the force and clarity of the witnesses' statements created a ripple effect that shifted the energy of the entire room. The audience, both in person and online, could sense a subtle but unmistakable change. The narrative momentum was no longer in Trump's favor. Each exchange now required careful calibration, and any misstep would be amplified, scrutinized, and broadcast in real time. Trump attempted to counter, relying on volume and theatrical delivery to regain control. He emphasized accomplishments, repeated talking points, and sought to appeal to authority and perception. But the evidence presented by Crockett's team had already anchored public perception. Every claim made by Trump's team was dissected with precision, and even minor inconsistencies were magnified by the meticulous sequencing of the testimony. The witness continued to deliver concise, fact-driven responses, systematically dismantling the narrative Trump sought to establish. The strategic brilliance was evident in how each statement built upon the previous one. Facts were layered, context was provided, and every assertion from Trump's team was countered without overstatement. The witness had been coached not just on content, but on delivery, timing, and the power of pauses, subtle yet impactful techniques that allowed each statement to land with maximum effect. Observers online immediately noticed the contrast. Trump's reactive style versus the composed, deliberate, and methodical presentation of the witness. As the exchange unfolded, the implications became clear. This was more than just a legal proceeding. It was a demonstration of narrative control in high-stakes political and legal arenas. Every answer from the witness not only addressed a legal point, but also shaped perception. Analysts on social media highlighted how in real time, momentum could be shifted with strategic clarity and evidence-backed authority. Within minutes, clips showing the witness's decisive statements went viral, spreading rapidly across news outlets, political forums, and social platforms. Trump attempted to pivot, raising procedural questions and seeking to introduce alternative evidence. Yet the witness anticipated each move, responding with factual precision and a calm demeanor that left no room for misdirection. Each rebuttal was concise, strategically structured, and reinforced the credibility of Crockett's position. The courtroom audience, journalists, and millions of online viewers could feel the mounting pressure, a pressure created not by theatrics, but by meticulous preparation and execution. Crockett herself observed every interaction with unwavering focus. Her composure emphasized the strategic importance of restraint. By allowing the witness to remain center stage, she ensured that the impact of every statement was fully absorbed by the courtroom and by the viewing public. Micro-expressions, subtle nods, and measured affirmations reinforced the authority of the testimony without overshadowing the facts themselves. It was a masterclass in letting evidence speak louder than rhetoric. By mid-exchange, patterns became evident. Trump's repeated attempts to assert dominance through interruption, tone, or appeal to spectacle were consistently neutralized by the witness's strategic responses. Each factual correction, context clarification, and evidence-backed statements systematically eroded the credibility of opposing claims. The courtroom dynamic had shifted so completely that even minor oversights from Trump's team were magnified, further solidifying the perception of Crockett's advantage. The viral impact was immediate. Clips highlighting the witness's precision and clarity flooded social media. Analysts dissected each line, emphasizing the strategic brilliance of preparation, delivery, and timing. Viewers were quick to note the contrast: Trump's improvisational tactics versus the calculated, evidence-driven approach that now dominated the room. Discussions and commentary focused not only on the legal content, but on the broader lessons of narrative control, strategic pacing, and perception management. Throughout this phase, the exchange highlighted a critical insight in high-profile political and legal confrontations. Authority is often determined by preparation, clarity, and execution rather than volume or theatrics. Every carefully framed response, every pause, and every contextual reference reinforced the growing dominance of Crockett's position. Trump's reactive posture only amplified the effect, providing a real-time demonstration of how strategy, timing, and evidence can decisively influence outcomes. As the second phase of the hearing concluded, the courtroom had undergone a subtle transformation. Momentum had shifted decisively, credibility had been fortified on one side, and perception had been shaped with precision. What was expected to be a routine legal confrontation had become a live demonstration of strategic authority, an example of how preparation, clarity, and timing can reshape even the most high-profile political and legal narrative. By the time the third stage of the courtroom battle began, the atmosphere had grown almost electric. The initial shock of the witness's testimony had settled, but its impact lingered, casting a long shadow over Trump's narrative. He had entered with confidence, relying on reputation and familiar rhetorical strategies. But each measured statement from Crockett's witness chipped away at that confidence. The courtroom energy subtly shifted, the tension thickening with every precise word spoken. Trump's legal team attempted to regain the upper hand, introducing nuanced arguments, procedural objections, and additional evidence intended to reinforce their position. But each effort met a wall of meticulously structured rebuttals. The witness, guided by strategic preparation, addressed each claim with clarity and authority, dismantling assumptions and exposing gaps in reasoning. In mere seconds, the witness transformed what could have been a standard legal exchange into a dramatic narrative turning point. The skill lay not just in what was said, but in how it was delivered. Pauses were calculated, tone measured, and phrasing precise. Observers noted how the witness maintained a calm demeanor, projecting confidence and credibility while highlighting discrepancies in opposing arguments. Every carefully crafted line amplified the initial impact, demonstrating how a well-prepared testimony could dictate the flow of high-stakes litigation. The audience, both in the courtroom and online, could feel the balance of authority shifting with each sentence. Crockett's strategic poise added a subtle yet powerful layer to the proceedings. She allowed the witness to command the floor, knowing that every interruption, overstatement, or defensiveness could dilute the impact. Her composure reinforced the authority of the testimony and underscored the credibility of her position. Micro-expressions, a raised eyebrow, a slight nod, A steady gaze all served to silently guide the perception of observers. Emphasizing mastery without overt dominance, Trump's attempts to redirect focus grew increasingly urgent. He repeated familiar points, appealed to precedent, and relied on theatrics to assert presence. Yet, each move only highlighted the stark contrast between improvisational argumentation and methodical, evidence-based strategy. Analysts and commentators rapidly circulated clips showcasing these contrasts, emphasizing how preparation, timing, and factual authority outpaced bluster and repetition in high-profile legal confrontations as the cross-examination deepened. The witness skillfully addressed the more technical aspects of the case timelines, documentation, and procedural nuances, leaving little room for ambiguity. The courtroom absorbed every word. Viewers online dissected every moment. Even the briefest pauses and subtle emphases were analyzed, revealing the meticulous orchestration behind each statement. The exchange illustrated that dominance in such settings is rarely about volume or aggression. It is about precision, clarity, and credibility. The narrative momentum had firmly shifted. Trump's efforts to regain control now seemed reactive, constrained by the already established authority of Crockett's witness. Each attempted pivot or rhetorical flourish was countered by calm, factual refutation. The effectiveness of preparation was evident. The witness anticipated challenges, responded with clarity, and allowed the weight of evidence to speak louder than any emotional appeal or dramatic gesture. Public perception, as evidenced by viral reactions and commentary, had already recognized who held narrative control by the close of this phase. It was undeniable that the courtroom dynamic had been decisively altered. What started as a high-stakes confrontation evolved into a clear demonstration of strategic dominance. The witness's 9-second moment was no longer an isolated highlight. It had set the tone, determined the narrative, and shifted momentum irrevocably. Trump's presence, while still commanding attention, now faced the reality that the most critical elements of the case had already been framed against him. Observers noted that the session served as a blueprint for effective legal and political strategy in the digital era. Preparation, precise articulation, timing, and evidence-driven responses proved more influential than theatrics, volume, or reputation alone. Every micro-expression, every deliberate pause, and every fact-based counterstatement contributed to a narrative shift that would be remembered far beyond the courtroom walls. The viral potential of this moment underscored the broader implications of strategic/mastery in high-profile disputes. As Part 3 drew to a close, the audience could sense the inevitable trajectory of the case. Trump's repeated attempts to assert dominance were systematically neutralized, while Crockett's witness, supported by her poised guidance, maintained unassailable authority. Momentum had clearly swung, setting the stage for the final phase, the decisive closing moments where the implications, consequences, and viral impact would become fully visible. The final phase of the courtroom confrontation unfolded with a gravity that few had anticipated. Trump's legal strategy, already under strain from the precision and authority of Crockett's witness, faced the ultimate test, concluding arguments and the subtle orchestration of perception in front of both the judiciary and a global audience. Every observer, from journalists to live-stream viewers, understood that the closing moments would crystallize the outcome and define the viral narrative for years to come. Crockett's team remained methodical. They allowed the witness to provide clarifying points, reinforcing the evidence already laid bare while subtly highlighting areas where Trump's narrative had faltered. This approach ensured that the courtroom, and by extension, the public, recognized the cumulative weight of every testimony and every fact. Each statement was strategically sequenced, leaving no room for ambiguity, misdirection, or theatrical diversion. Momentum, once firmly captured, was now cemented. Trump's presence, though still commanding attention, became reactive. Attempts to redirect, challenge, or dramatize were consistently countered by precise, evidence-backed responses. Every rhetorical maneuver was met with calm, factual refutation. Observers online noted the stark contrast. A high-profile figure accustomed to dominating media cycles was now navigating a courtroom environment, dictated entirely by preparation, clarity, and strategic execution. The lessons were clear. Authority in such moments is not granted by status, but earned through execution. The witness, fully aware of the stakes, continued to dismantle residual claims with unyielding precision. Context, timelines, and documentation were presented in a way that left no gaps for misinterpretation. Each carefully chosen word reinforced credibility and shaped perception. Even subtle gestures, a measured pause, a controlled tone, a deliberate emphasis contributed to the cumulative effect. This was not a performance. It was a strategic demonstration of narrative mastery, combining factual clarity with psychological influence. Crockett herself maintained a poised presence, reinforcing the authority of the testimony while avoiding any overt assertion. Her restraint magnified the impact of the evidence, emphasizing that control comes from preparation, not theatrics. Micro-expressions and deliberate pacing allowed the courtroom to witness a natural, flow of dominance, quiet yet undeniable. The audience, both live and online, absorbed every nuance, understanding that this moment exemplified the power of strategic, legal, and political communication. As the hearing drew to its conclusion, the implications of the witness's testimony were unmistakable. Trump's case, once projected as formidable, had been systematically dismantled within minutes. The viral 9-second highlight that had initially captured public attention now symbolized a broader pattern: meticulous preparation. Strategic delivery and clarity of evidence can decisively shift momentum, even against high-profile opponents. Analysts highlighted how this confrontation would be studied as an example of courtroom strategy meeting political acumen in real time. The reactions, both immediate and social, were overwhelming. Clips showcasing the witness's precise, impactful statements dominated social media timelines. Commentators dissected each moment, emphasizing the efficiency, authority, and effectiveness of Crockett's strategy. The narrative had been established. The legal blow was not just procedural, but symbolic, highlighting how preparation and mastery of evidence can redefine public perception and viral discourse in high-stakes scenarios. Trump's legal team, despite repeated attempts to salvage credibility, could not regain control. The evidence, witness precision, and strategic sequencing had set the tone irreversibly. The courtroom had observed a microcosm of influence, authority established through preparation, clarity, and evidence-driven execution, contrasting sharply with reactive rhetoric and improvisation. Every observer recognized that this moment, captured in real time, would influence both legal and political discourse far beyond the immediate hearing. Finally, as the gavel signaled the end of the formal proceedings, the impact was clear. Crockett's witness had not only disrupted the narrative, but had reshaped it entirely, leaving Trump's claims weakened, public perception recalibrated, and the viral legacy of the moment firmly established. The courtroom demonstration served as a definitive lesson in the power of preparation, timing, and authoritative evidence, a lesson magnified exponentially through modern digital platforms, where every 9-second moment could define history. This high-profile confrontation, now documented in viral clips and thorough analyses, underscored a universal truth: in legal and political arenas alike, mastery over evidence, timing, and delivery is often more decisive than reputation, theatrics, or bluster. The repercussions of this case, and the viral dissemination of the witness's testimony, would influence public discourse, political strategy, and the understanding of courtroom dynamics for months, if not years, to come.